You know those videos, the ones with the royal guards? They stand so still, like statues.
Someone dared me to prank them. Could I make them crack? I just had to try. My name is Lily. I love a good laugh, especially if it involves a little mischief. My friends know this about me, so when they dared me to prank the royal guards, I was totally in. Ever since I was a kid, I've always had a knack for pulling off the most unexpected pranks. Whether it was hiding behind doors to scare my siblings or putting fake spiders in my mom's shoes, I thrived on the thrill of the surprise and the laughter that followed. My friends, well, they've been my partners in crime for as long as I can remember. We've done everything from harmless classroom pranks to elaborate setups that took weeks to plan. One sunny afternoon, as we were lounging in the park, sipping on our iced coffees and reminiscing about our past escapades, someone brought up the idea of pranking the royal guards. At first it seemed like a joke. I mean, who would dare to mess with the stoic, unflinching royal guards? But the more we talked about it, the more it seemed like the ultimate challenge. And if there's one thing I can't resist, it's a good challenge. We spent the next few days planning every detail. We researched the guards' routines, the best times to approach, and even practiced our poker faces. The plan was simple yet daring. I would approach the guards, pretending to be a tourist, and then, at the perfect moment, I'd pull a funny face or do something unexpected to try and get a reaction. My friends would be nearby, capturing everything on their phones. The day of the prank, my heart was racing. As I walked up to the guards, I could feel the adrenaline pumping through my veins. They stood there as still as statues, their faces completely expressionless. I took a deep breath, and with a mischievous grin, I started my act. I made silly faces, pretended to trip, and even tried to engage them in conversation. To my surprise, they didn't budge, not even a smirk. But my friends, oh, they were having the time of their lives, trying to stifle their laughter as they recorded the whole thing. Just when I thought the prank was a bust, I decided to go for one last attempt. I pulled out a rubber chicken from my bag and gave it a squeeze. The loud, unexpected squeak echoed through the courtyard, and for a split second, I saw one of the guards' lips twitch. It was a tiny reaction, but it was enough. My friends burst into laughter, and I knew we had succeeded. As I ran back to my friends, the guards remained as stoic as ever, but I could sense a hint of amusement in their eyes. We spent the rest of the day laughing and replaying the videos, proud of our little victory. It was a prank to remember, and it only fueled my love for mischief even more. The plan was simple. Get a coffee, act casual, see how close I could get to the guards. Would they react, or would they stay still? I started walking towards them, coffee in hand. The cafe was bustling with the morning crowd, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. I stepped up to the counter, ordered my usual, and waited. The barista, a young woman with a friendly smile, handed me my cup. I thanked her and took a moment to stir in some sugar, watching the swirls of cream mix with the dark liquid. As I walked out of the cafe, the sun was just beginning to rise, casting a golden hue over the city. The streets were starting to fill with people heading to work, but my focus was on the guards stationed at the entrance of the building across the street. They stood tall and imposing, their eyes scanning the area with a practiced vigilance. I took a deep breath and started walking towards them, my heart pounding in my chest. The plan was to blend in, to look like just another person going about their day. I sipped my coffee, trying to appear nonchalant. The warmth of the cup in my hand was comforting, a small anchor in the midst of my nerves. As I got closer, I could see the details of their uniforms, the way their hands rested on their weapons, ready to spring into action at a moment's notice. I wondered if they could hear my heartbeat, if they could sense the adrenaline coursing through my veins, but their faces remained impassive, giving nothing away. I walked past them, my eyes forward, my pace steady. They didn't move, didn't even glance in my direction. I felt a surge of relief, but I knew this was just the beginning. The real challenge was yet to come. I found a spot nearby where I could observe them without drawing attention to myself. I sipped my coffee, the bitter taste grounding me in the moment. The guards were like statues, their discipline evident in every movement or lack thereof. I watched them for a while, noting their routines, the way they communicated with subtle gestures. It was clear they were well trained, but I needed to find a way to get past them. I finished my coffee and tossed the cup into a nearby trash can. The plan was in motion, and there was no turning back now. I took one last look at the guards before slipping into the crowd, my mind racing with possibilities. The next phase of the plan would require precision and timing, but I was ready. This was what I had trained for, and I was determined to succeed.
The guards were impressive. They stood so straight and tall, not even a twitch.
I got closer. Nothing.
They were like statues, completely unfazed by my presence.
I took a sip of my coffee. The rich aroma filled my senses, a momentary distraction from the task at hand. The cafe was bustling with activity, the clinking of cups and the murmur of conversations creating a symphony of everyday life. I scanned the room, my eyes landing on the group of people I had been observing for the past hour. They were seated at a corner table, engaged in what seemed like a serious discussion. I decided it was time to make my move. I stood up, my heart pounding in my chest. With calculated steps, I walked towards their table. Then I pretended to trip. My foot caught on an imaginary obstacle and I stumbled forward, my coffee cup tilting precariously. I almost spilled my drink on them. The hot liquid sloshed dangerously close to the edge, but I managed to regain my balance just in time. Still nothing. They barely glanced in my direction, their conversation uninterrupted. These guys were good. Their composure was impressive, almost unnerving. I had to step it up a notch. I took a deep breath and decided to try a different approach. I walked back to the counter and ordered another coffee, this time with extra foam. As I waited, I thought about my next move. Maybe a direct approach would work better. I could casually strike up a conversation, see if I could glean any information from them. With my new coffee in hand, I made my way back to their table. This time, I didn't pretend to trip. Instead, I walked up to them with a friendly smile. "Excuse me," I said, "but I couldn't help but notice you all seem to be having a very interesting discussion. Mind if I join you?" They looked at me, their expressions a mix of surprise and curiosity. One of them, a tall man with sharp features, nodded. "Sure, why not?" he said, gesturing to an empty chair. I sat down, my heart still racing. This was it, I was in. Now I just had to play it cool and see what I could find out. The conversation resumed and I listened intently, waiting for the right moment to ask my questions. As the minutes ticked by, I realized that this was going to be more challenging than I had anticipated. These guys were not just good, they were professionals. But I was determined. I had come this far, and I wasn't going to back down now. It was time to push the limits and see just how far I could go. I started humming a silly song. I danced a little jig. I even waved my hands in front of their faces. Finally, one of the guards blinked. I couldn't believe it. The guard looked at me, just for a second. His eyes were stern, but I swear I saw a hint of amusement. Then he went back to his post. I was busted. I walked away, laughing to myself. Those guards were amazing. They had incredible discipline. I had a newfound respect for them. Pranking them was harder than I thought. Have you ever seen the Royal Guards? Would you ever try to prank them? Tell me about it on my show. I want to hear all your funny stories.